let's take a look at all of the bleak and dire prognostications about the future, or lack thereof, for American higher education. I recall vividly a luncheon I had last January with Brian Kelly, editor of U.S. News and World Report, in which he opined that half of U.S. colleges and universities will go out of business. I said, "Really? Half?" To which he replied, "Leo, we used to print a magazine. Technology is disruptive." And then I thought of the many, many fragile private colleges that are extremely vulnerable to mergers, takeovers by for-profits, or closure. So maybe Brian isn't all that far off. Next, we have the iceberg of college costs to consider. I received a copy of a letter this summer from a rather desperate Elon mom with 3 children in private colleges and total college bills of well over $120,000 a year. She worked 2 jobs, also freelanced, had an employed husband, but with high medical expenses and aging parents to support. So they had mortgaged their house and taken on significant debt to finance their children's educations. Many of you have read last month's report from Sallie Mae that showed the public is not willing to pay much more for higher education. And then, of course, we could not go a week last year without reading an article about massive open online courses, or MOOCs, with many predicting the death of bricks and mortar campuses in favor of free or inexpensive courses taught by world experts from leading institutions. Now let's add the political climate for higher education into this context. Last year, you will recall, we lost the legislative tuition grant program for North Carolina students. This summer, nonprofits, hospitals, hospices, churches, colleges, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and more worked successfully in Raleigh together to maintain our exemption from paying sales taxes on most goods and services that we buy, although student meal plans and some ticket sales will now be taxed come January. We also protected the charitable deduction for gifts to nonprofits for taxpayers who itemize their tax deductions. One other ray of good news was the inclusion of $4.5 million in the state budget for need-based scholarships for students attending independent colleges. These are protected for now, but I am not so naive as to assume they're not going to be challenged again in the future. Things are not much better on the federal level. Our dysfunctional Congress took much of the summer to agree on a plan just to set student loan interest rates. And once you factor in the budget stalemate and a $16.7 trillion national debt, my belief is that both Washington and Raleigh will present higher education with more challenges, especially funding cuts and increased regulation, than assistance. So isn't that a pretty picture? And very clearly, some institutions will not survive the convergences of these storms. But I want to describe to you this morning why I believe Elon is in a position of relative strength, as well as the factors that we must continue to focus on as we sail into these turbulent waters. First, let's take a look at all of the great things we have going for us. First on my list is you. There is not a doubt in my mind that the single greatest resource Elon has for its students is you, our talented and committed faculty and staff. We have brilliantly talented teachers, scholars, and mentors, and equally exceptional staff who guide students and are dedicated to making every dimension of this campus, from student life to plumbing and electrical to advising and technology, a truly exemplary environment for learning. Second, we've got a great brand. Some of you might object to a coarse marketing term like brand, but brand matters. Our brand is as a fine, residential, selective liberal arts university with strong professional education. We are the leader in engaged and experiential learning, and we have earned important quality distinctions such as AACSB and ACEJMC and Phi Beta Kappa, and many more. Third, we have national reach now in competing for students. Our newer markets in New England and throughout the Northeast, in the Midwest, and now in the West, particularly California, add great strength to our university profile and make us less vulnerable to dependence on any one geographic region. Our next challenge is to reach our goals in international recruiting. Fourth, our students go on to lead successful and meaningful lives. I'll say a word later on about recent student success in applying to graduate schools. But thanks to the work of the Student Professional Development Center staff, career services staff in the professional schools and Elon College, a great internship program, our graduates have a strong record of employment. And we are among the most productive campuses in enrolling graduates in the Peace Corps, Fulbright Fellowships, Teach for America, and other competitive nonprofits. Outcomes are extremely important to students and their families today. Fifth, despite hitting the $40,000 price mark this year, we remain a very strong value, providing a superb education for $10,000 to $20,000 less than many of our competitors. Sixth, Elon has a strong culture of innovation and experimentation. To name just one example, we've been experimenting with online education in the summer for more than a decade now, years ahead of many of our peers. And think about how that has changed the nature of summer school, with 44 online classes offered just this past summer. So we have many strengths upon which to build a successful future. Of this I am confident. We will stay true to the essence of what makes us quintessentially Elon. We're investing $100 million in the residential campus because we believe that is an essential part of the undergraduate experience. We will continue to emphasize small classes and learning environments that are engaging and challenging. We will take our hallmark experiential learning programs to still even higher levels of excellence. But like many of you, I've been reading and thinking about MOOCs for more than a year. And for me, the topic of MOOCs somewhat masks the two big forces out there that will challenge higher education as we know it. First, the issues of cost and affordability. And second, the changing expectations that digital natives are going to bring with them to college about how and when and where learning takes place. Regarding cost and affordability, our mindset is that students will be in residence for 8 continuous semesters. But will students seek less expensive routes to a degree in the future, even students from relatively well-off families? About 70 of our students each year finish Elon in less than 4 years, mostly to save money. Will this trend increase? As I've mentioned, summer school has moved to a substantially online experience. Will students turn to more online courses to reduce the time it takes to earn a degree? Will they take those courses at Elon or transfer them in from somewhere else? Many more students come to Elon today with the expectation that they will earn a graduate degree, and especially a professional credential to complement their liberal arts-based undergraduate experience. Will they seek 4+1 or 4+2 or 3+3 or 3+1 options in greater numbers? So it's very clear to me the world of enrollment management is going to get increasingly complicated. Even if students change their course-taking patterns by a mere 10%, say through a combination of taking more online courses, early graduation, and other factors, this has huge budget implications for Elon. We don't want to end up like the proverbial lobsters in a pot of cold water on the stove, unaware that the burner has been turned on and that the environment around us is changing profoundly. My overall optimism about our future is based on our track record of innovation. We do need to take seriously the questions about how the digital frontier will reshape higher education and ensure that we are investing in faculty development and the technology infrastructure to carry us into the future. Provost House has drafted a thoughtful paper about digital learning that I hope will be widely read, discussed, and debated this year. Most of you, or many of you, are already in the lead in experimenting with flipped or blended classrooms. And of course, much innovation will not be technologically driven. For example, Professor Toddy Peters and I were talking about poverty studies the other day, and she was thinking out loud about more 8-credit classes that could be taught, for instance, in both on campus and in Greensboro and Birmingham, New York, and Washington, D.C. I see our future as a very creative and powerful mosaic of learning experiences for faculty and students, very much centered here on our residential campus, but with powerful opportunities for learning in the wider physical world, as well as in the online world when offered at a level of quality that would make us proud to say that it was part of Elon. If any group of people can envision this future well, I am looking at it this morning. I know we will have great conversations ahead this year in imagining our future together. I'm very pleased to welcome Professor Jean Radigan-Rohr to the senior staff, where she has taken on the responsibility of opening our new Center for College Access and Success. In asking her to take on this challenge, I said, Jean, we've got great pieces of the puzzle on the table. The Elon Academy, the Watson and Odyssey Scholarship programs, the Village Project, which Jean started to provide mentoring and tutoring and enrichment for struggling readers in Alamance County, emphasizing family involvement, plus an Elon commitment goal to double need-based financial aid in this decade. So I asked, how can all of these initiatives be integrated and more mutually supporting to realize even greater success? Why is this work so vital? Think about the world outside of our campus. 26% of children in North Carolina live in poverty. In Alamance County, it's 30.4%. Data from the National Assessment of Educational Progress shows that the largest factor impacting reading and math scores across the nation is childhood poverty rates. If the Elon Academy and the Watson and Odyssey scholarship programs have taught us anything, it's that we can make a difference in changing the future lives of young people born into less than privileged circumstances through education. Now more than ever, we need to bear down on this idea and commit ourselves even more deeply to the principle of increasing access and success. And speaking of the Elon Academy, our inaugural Alpha class will graduate from colleges across the country this spring, including here at Elon. This makes my heart sing. The Elon Academy and the Watson and Odyssey programs are an example of what we can achieve over time with a vision, a plan, committed and talented faculty and staff leadership, and the generosity of inspired and inspiring donors. As a part of our effort to prepare students to thrive in the 21st century, the Elon Commitment Strategic Plan includes a main objective to achieve 100% access to a global experience for all undergraduate students. The reason for this is simple. To be successful, informed citizens of the world, students today must understand and interact with peoples of different cultures, faith backgrounds, and languages. We are proud of the fact that 72% of our students have participated in study abroad, and another 2% have had a global experience through our new Study USA program. But the fact remains that the most overwhelming reason the remaining students do not participate in study abroad is related to financial need. We can and should do more to level this playing field. Beginning next year, we want to add $125,000 per year for 3 consecutive years to our need-based aid budget for global study. The total budget stands right now at just $120,000. We believe many students with need, as determined by their FAFSA, would benefit even with partial scholarships, which could be supplemented by summer earnings and contributions from family members. And by encouraging students to pursue semester-long study abroad experiences, we can support more students in furthering their mastery of international languages, one of the most important aims of a liberal arts education. Let me emphasize that we're not talking about mandating a study abroad experience for all students. There are some who do not want to go for a variety of reasons, and others who should not go. Another priority of the Elon Commitment Plan that is taking shape before our eyes is the development of the residential campus. The aim of the plan is to integrate students' academic, social, and co-curricular activities within residential campus neighborhoods in order to create an immersive 24/7 learning environment. The plan includes 7 residential neighborhoods at Elon, each with special identities: the Historic Neighborhood, Daniel Center, the Oaks, Colonnades, Loy Center, the station at Mill Point, and the Global Neighborhood. The long-term plan is for these neighborhoods to have an active community association, a teacher-scholar in residence, and 1 assistant director of residence life for every 300 students. This year, we are excited to open 2 buildings as phase 1 of the Global Neighborhood, which will include both a creative arts house and an international house, which includes French, Spanish, and German learning communities. First-year students living in the neighborhood will be co-enrolled in GST 110 sections to be taught in their neighborhood classrooms, with opportunities for monthly dinners with faculty members. Next year, we'll see the full launch of the Residential Campus Initiative and completion of the Global Neighborhood, including the opening of the new Global Commons, faculty offices, an international media room, a cafe, and the Isabella Cannon Global Education Center. And there is much more to the plan, including more common and academic spaces in the historic Loy and Daniel Center neighborhoods, supporting more linked classes comprised of students living in a common house and supporting new ideas for learning communities. I believe the residential campus plan is vitally important to our identity as a residential liberal arts university. A student told me last year that half of what I have learned at Elon was by living in community and discussing ideas with other students who are different from me. Our plan is not only to be more residential, but to offer intellectually oriented residential communities. And I believe this is one of the most significant investments we're going to make in this university in this decade. From my vantage point as president, I will occasionally notice a trend that causes me to sit up and say, wow. I experienced last spring that moment many times when graduate school acceptances started coming in. Harvard Medical School, Yale Drama School, Berkeley Law, Chicago Law, Notre Dame, and many more wonderful top universities. Add to that our most productive Fulbright campus status. Thank you, Janet Myers and Meredith Malborn Wade. Our fine record with the Peace Corps, and much more. One feels a sense today that our best students can compete successfully anywhere they set their minds to go. Many of them have had the opportunity to be encouraged by our fellows programs, or challenged by a Lumen Prize, or to become committed to leading and serving in another culture based on an international experience while here at Elon. I want to offer a word of encouragement this morning to the students, faculty, and staff who are giving serious thought to the issue of intellectual climate on campus and are asking good questions. What are we doing to support the most intellectually curious of our students? How do we connect unconnected students to the intellectual life of the campus? What is available on evenings and weekends to feed hungry minds? Discussion groups about books, yes, books, and convocation speakers. Do we celebrate nerd culture, as our students call it? These are wonderful questions and responsive to the reality of how much Elon students have changed over the course of the last 10 to 15 years. Elon prides itself in being responsive to the needs of all learners, and I thank all of you who are paying special attention to the young people on campus who are seeking the highest levels of challenge and connection with others who are committed to the life of the mind. Our young law school in Greensboro has a very important year ahead. Next June, Dean George Johnson will return to the faculty after 6 years of hard work shepherding the school through its successful ABA accreditations. Thank you, George. A search committee is working to find Dean Johnson's successor, and it's already in place and working away. This is a very important leadership position, not only for the law school, but for our entire university. We have a lot to be proud of at Elon Law. This year, the law school's leadership program was recognized with the ABA's E. Smith Gambrell Award for Excellence in Legal Professionalism Education. In 2012, the National Jurist named Elon as one of the 20 most innovative law schools. Alumnus David Morrow, class of '07, Law 10, received the National Bar Association's Junius W. Williams Young Lawyer of the Year Award. So proud of David. And of all graduating classes so far from Elon Law, 87% of those sitting for the bar exam have passed, including out-of-state examinations and repeat takers. As many of you know, these are very challenging times for legal education. Faculty and staff from the law school, with support from administrators from main campus, have been working hard all summer to craft a strategic plan for the next 5 years of the law school's development. This is a time in our law school's development to determine what its programmatic distinctions and hallmarks will be. And of course, all of us are vested in their success. This month, the alumni engagement staff members were pleased to move into the remodeled Martin Alumni Center at the corner of Haggard and O'Kelly. If you hadn't had a chance to stop by and see the new space, please do drop in. The reason for the new center is simple: to send a message to our alumni that the university welcomes a visit from them at any time. At the Martin Alumni Center, or MAC as we are calling it, alumni will have an opportunity to take a student-led tour, watch a new video produced by their fellow alumni, Tim Johnson and Max Cantor, and talk with staff members about how they can engage or re-engage with Elon. We're heartened by how many alumni are joining the online Elon network, volunteering their services to help current students find internships and jobs. For those who are new to the Elon community, you may be surprised to know that nearly 60% of our alumni are under 40 years of age. So we have a great opportunity to shape the experiences of our alumni body while it is quite young. And I am particularly pleased to see the leadership of the academic deans and departments on campus in deepening this work. New alumni awards programs have been created in the schools and in Elon College. Individual faculty members are inviting alumni to return to campus and to speak to classes in their areas of expertise. We have an active and thoughtful Young Alumni Council, and this year we're launching a new alumni group. We call them the Next Gens, the next generation of alumni leadership who graduated from Elon more than 10 years ago, who are already making important marks in their chosen fields. For the first time, Elon alumni have an important place in our strategic plan. The reason for this is simple. Great universities have great alumni bodies. Alumni are not about the university's past. They represent our future. More than any other time in Elon's history, our national reputation will rest in substantial measure on the accomplishments of the young men and women we send forth in the world each year to accomplish great things. People will point to those accomplished women and men and say, that very fine person went to Elon. Late last spring, you'll recall that Elon had the opportunity to consider membership in the Colonial Athletics Association, which we formally accepted just prior to commencement. This year will be our 10th and final year competing in the Southern Conference. While the move to the Colonial was widely supported by our student athletes and coaches, I want to take a few minutes this morning to talk about why this change in conference affiliation is an important institutional positioning move for the university. All of this can be explained by the CAA footprint, with a complement of full members in the north, extending from Boston to Baltimore, and another complement of full members in the south, in Virginia and the Carolinas. When you think about that footprint, consider that 56% of the class of 2017 hail from states represented in the CAA. Think about how valuable it will be for employers in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and throughout the Northeast to be exposed to Elon even more fully through athletics. Our alumni are very excited about the opportunity to gather at away athletics contests, and of course the CAA footprint matches well with where our young alumni are settling. The CAA will place us in 4 of the nation's largest media markets: New York, Philadelphia, Boston, and Baltimore. Importantly, the CAA also has a strong academic alliance, including an annual undergraduate research conference. Transitions like this are not easy. When we joined the SoCon, we started out at the bottom competitively, but rose steadily. There are expectations to raise more money each year to cover travel costs. But if we take our cue from the lions outside the New York Public Library, patience and fortitude, I think the move to the CAA will prove to be a very good thing for Elon in the long run. As I hope everyone is aware, we have a relatively new staff advisory council at Elon that has been working hard to think about how work life at the university can be further enhanced. This summer, Rhonda Belton and Leanne Royster met with Gerald Whittington, Jerry Francis, and me to consider a wide-ranging report from the staff council that presented numerous great ideas: additional staff development opportunities, reformation of a leadership development program like the former Teagle program, increasing funding for the PACE program to fund more student workers, creating more opportunities for staff to participate in Study Abroad and Study USA, and much more. On this last point, I'm pleased that 33 staff members, most of whom have not traveled abroad, will visit our London Center in December in a program led by Chris Fulkerson, Brooke Barnett, and Tom Mould. Our 841 staff members are critical to shaping an extraordinary environment for learning at Elon, and I'm very pleased that we have staff and administrative leadership working on ways to support the staff in their very fine and important work. I also want to give a shout out this morning to the Faculty and Staff Wellness Program, which moved this summer to the beautiful new R.N. Ellington Center on South Campus. This new center has 5 new exam rooms just for faculty and staff, which I hope you'll take a minute to check out. Did you know that usage of the Wellness Center has grown from 238 visits in 2008-09 to 2,888 visits last year? The center provides a physician assistant, and a nurse practitioner to handle many medical issues, lab testing, health screenings, follow-up consultations, and of course, programs on healthy lifestyles and work-life balance. It's been wonderful to watch this important program blossom at Elon, and congratulations to all who have worked so hard to bring it about. One of the great strengths of Elon is the tremendous sense of community that binds us together. It is one of our most cherished institutional assets. But as we have experienced painfully, community can be frayed by the societal ills of racism, sexism, and homophobia. One of our highest goals is to prepare young people to go out into the world with a respect for differences in culture, in race, in religion, in socioeconomic status, language, and sexual identity. When we experience a lack of respect within our community that compromises someone's safety and well-being, it should be a concern for each of us. The preamble to the United States Constitution holds out the idea of a more perfect union. And while on some days it feels like 2 steps forward and 1 step backward on the aspiration set forth in the Pledge of Allegiance, liberty and justice for all, I must remain optimistic. I'm going to be a grandfather for the 2nd time in January, and I know what kind of world I want my grandkids to inherit. We have a way to go in creating a more perfect university, more accepting, more welcoming, more respectful. We are a good place filled with many, many good people, but we can be even better. This year, I want to call special attention to the work of the Multicultural Center. We should all be so proud that our multicultural enrollment at Elon has grown to 17% of the student body, from 11% in 2003, just a decade. We owe a debt to past leaders of that center, LaTanya Richmond and Leon Williams, as well as to Melissa Jordan, who has graciously agreed to serve as interim director until a permanent director is named this fall. And I ask for all of you to support the new staff in the Multicultural Center, including the new director, the associate director for diversity education, and a new position, the assistant or associate director for race and ethnicity, focusing specifically on supporting African American students at Elon. Elon is a better, richer, stronger institution because of the Multicultural Center. One of our institutional priorities this year relates to the needs of particular groups on campus. I'm pleased that members of the Inclusive Community Council have been working with others across campus this summer and will continue this fall to focus on the Black, African American, and African communities at Elon. And we're also beginning conversations across campus in anticipation of growing Hispanic community at Elon. And I'll call on many of you this year to help with these important efforts. I'm also pleased to announce this morning the formation of a special task force that will focus on the LGBTQIA community at Elon, which will be co-chaired by Professor Mary Jo Festel and the director of the new Gender and LGBTQIA Center at Elon, Matthew Antonio Bosch. There is much work that we can and will do to make Elon a fairer and safer place for members of the LGBTQ community at Elon, and I look forward to the progress that we will achieve. I want to commend the 21 staff members who became certified ADL trainers this summer. Hundreds of you have already participated in world-class training conceived by the Anti-Defamation League. It is practical, useful, meaningful, and fun. And now we have 21 people at Elon who can provide that training on an ongoing basis. If you have not yet participated, I promise you that your time will be well spent and that we will be a better community because of your participation. Lastly, and quickly, happy quasquicentennial. We are 125 years young this year, and University Communications is launching a new website today describing the festivities planned for this year. Besides planting 125 new trees, the event I look forward to most is the release of Professor Emeritus of History George Troxler's richly illustrated new book titled From a Grove of Oaks, The History of Elon University. It will be released around the time of Founders Day this coming March, and any faculty or staff member desiring a complimentary copy will receive one. In this special anniversary year, let's all be reminded this morning of the exceptional privilege it is to serve this university together. I wish you a wonderful academic year. Happy birthday. Happy New Year. Long live Elon.